When was the last time you had a deep conversation about dating, finding a job, reaching our goals, and all the other intricate areas that make up our 20s? Every episode, I talk about these topics with real young adults who are living and learning along with the rest of us. If you want to hear how your peers are dealing with and conquering these areas of life, tune in. This is Building the Blueprint.
Ladies and gentlemen, my guest today is as fun and charismatic as it gets. He is a leader on campus, a leader in our fraternity, a very ambitious man, has a lot of successful people around him. I haven't caught up with him in a while, and I'm excited to have a deep conversation with him. You're also my future roommate to be. Please welcome Jack Helsel.
Well, thank you for the lovely introduction, Nick.
Jack, thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Excited to have this conversation. So before we begin, we're going to do some rapid fire questions, okay?
Okay.
And the key here is it's got to be a gut check, okay? You're going to be like, I don't know. Gut check answers only.
I definitely have a gut, so.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Are you ready? All right. What's your go-to gym hype song?
Oh my, poker face.
If you could instantly master one skill, what would it be?
Reading people.
Favorite TV show?
Arrested Development.
Are you more introverted or extroverted?
Extroverted.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
Ooh.
Gut check.
That I paint miniatures.
City life or small town vibes?
Good mix. City life, probably.
Do you prefer podcasts or music when driving?
Podcast.
What's a weird food combo you actually love?
Come
on. Give me some.
I can't think of anything weird. Bagels and lox. I gotta.
Bagels and logs. What's a early bird to the airport or last second?
Last second.
Who's someone famous or not you'd love to get coffee with?
Ooh, my stepdad.
Good work. Snaps for that.
All right.
You paint miniatures?
I do paint miniatures.
What is it like miniature canvases?
No, I don't know if you know if you're familiar with wargaming. It's kind of like you buy miniatures, you paint them, you get a rule set, and then you can essentially do battles.
Okay.
So like
you're creating a character.
Kind of like I just painted a battalion of Russian grenadiers from 1812.
As one does.
But it's kind of fun. So
that's cool. So it's like D&D kind of. Like low key.
Low key. Yeah, I guess low key. Yeah.
Low key. All right, Jack, let's dive into it.
All right.
One of the things we wanted to talk about was reaching our goals because we both have a lot of goals.
Certainly.
Your goal was the gym and losing weight. And I have a lot of goals with this podcast and other things that are going on. Tell me a little more about your big goals, the biggest one being the gym, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, like anyone, I live with a number of goals for sure. Losing weight is a big one. Being healthy is kind of adjacent to that, just focusing on myself and building myself up health-wise so I have time to do my other goals. I think probably a goal secondary to that is certainly like I'm really passionate about having my own business at some point, and just leadership and leadership initiatives, engaging with leadership.
Should I tell other people about my goals?
Yeah, you should. Yeah. What are some of your goals, Nick?
Some of my goals, my underlying goal, like my mission statement, is to cultivate a world where less people say, I wish I would have blank in my 20s.
Okay.
It's like with less people say, I wish I would have been more confident in my 20s. I wish I would have started that business in my 20s. I wish I would have done blank. So that's
that's a good one.
That's my like big goal, right? My other goals are like, I'm trying to get funding. I just did a pitch before that. That's why I'm in this nice suit. And I'm trying to get them to give me money for the podcast and for social media stuff.
Okay.
Trying to make this podcast pretty big and help some people and create a thing that makes money and get some sponsorships. Trying to read more consistently. I read a lot, but it's just on and off, right? Like some months I'll read 5 books, some months I'll read no books. And so those are the main ones right now.
Yeah, I guess if I could go back really quickly to think of my goals, I've had time to think while you were talking. I think like your goal of making a world where people don't look back at their 20s like I wish I had done this or XYZ. I think for me, my biggest goal, when it comes to other people is just uplifting people. I find it really rewarding to make other people happy, for sure.
So why should I tell other people about my goals?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. One, you never know who you're talking to, right? So like with your podcast, meet someone here at school. maybe they have their own podcast or they're trying to work on it. There's always resources around you don't know about. On top of that, it's almost like an affirmation. If you wake up every morning and you talk about something you really want to do with somebody, just that is a step closer, and it kind of makes it more real if you're constantly thinking about it and constantly striving to make it better. At least that's my take.
What do you think? I agree. I think where I'm kind of thinking of like is sometimes we fall into that trap of like we talk about it and we don't do it. Like I was talking to my brother the other day and we were talking about how this is a big one with the gym, right? It's like when you want to get into shape, you always tell everybody that you're getting into shape, but then you don't actually do it, right?
Yeah.
And we were talking about how like ever since we started going to the gym more often, we actually tell less people that we go to the gym.
Yeah,
and I think that's prevalent for you because you've been telling me for like a year and a half, hey Nick, I'm on the cut, and you're still telling me, hey Nick, I'm cutting.
Yeah, you would think that if you didn't know me and you heard that I used to be obese, but I was actually just the same weight a year ago.
You're not obese now. You're not even obese.
No, but I just mean in the sense where like,
like it seems like you've come so far down, right? Yeah.
But the reality is, like I talk about it a lot. I joke around that I've been on a dirty bulk for 21 years.
Right. You made a joke that you had a lot of gut 5 minutes ago.
Exactly. And like, I'm lucky enough that, while obviously my fitness impacts my confidence like anyone else, my confidence is mostly away from that. And I'm really lucky in that sense. But I do think, one pro and one con of talking about, your goals and what you want, your ambitions is, if I go and tell you that I'm going on a cut and then we go out to eat, maybe you might say like, oh, let's get the salad, right? Or something. And then I'll be, oh, okay, yeah, smart, right? Or, I know that, peer opinion is a really strong thing, particularly when it comes to like thinking about, just, am I doing what I've said that I'm going to do?
Holding you accountable.
Exactly. But the con of that is you can very easily get trapped in, like, I've been telling you it for so long, right? That at some point it's like, okay, Jack, like, sure, right? And then I think the biggest con is when you're telling other people you're going to do this for your own comfort instead of necessarily like you really wanting to do it. Like if I go around telling people like, yeah, I'm on the cut, blah, it makes me feel better because I'm thinking, oh, these people think that I'm like trying to lose weight, whatever, even if it's not conscious.
It's the dopamine hit before actually doing it.
Exactly.
Right? You get the dopamine hit because you say you're doing this thing that you're not actually doing.
Cheating the system a
you're
little
cheating,
bit.
Totally cheating the system.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a balance that is hard to find of like telling people that you're doing this thing because if you're thinking about it all the time, you're more likely to do it. And maybe they have resources for you. Maybe they'll hold you accountable. But then also not just telling it for dopamine hits.
Yeah.
It can be difficult.
Exactly. That's why I mean, like, you would think that with weight loss is something where, oh, well, everyone can tell whether you've kind of lost weight or not, depending on how much weight you want to lose. But it definitely is one of those dopamine things where it's like, because of, American culture, just the culture around us, like, if I'm trying to lose weight, people do occasionally look upon me more fondly, whether I've actually achieved it or not,
Do you think, have you ever thought about like setting up like barriers of like, okay, if I don't do this, I get a consequence? Or like if I do this, I get a reward? Have you ever tried that?
I think that's where other people holding you accountable is really valuable. Like think about screen time on your phone, right? Like if you know the password, maybe it'll work the first day when you're really on it.
I just hit ignore for today.
Exactly. Yeah. You type in your code, you do it. So, with my roommate, Luca, who obviously, I created his screen time password. So
he can't get in.
He can't get in. And I've been very strict with him about like, giving him it.
Yeah.
And that's me holding him accountable. And that helps him. And sure, like sometimes it sucks for him, I'm sure. All he wants to do is just hang out, chill. But it pushes him to be a better person. And I think that that's really powerful when it comes to telling people about your goals. When you take actionable steps, like setting up barriers and stuff, where it's like, if I say, hey, if I don't lose 10 pounds by the end of the quarter,
give me $100.
Yeah, give me $100 or take $100 from me, whatever. Yeah. Right? Like if I just do that myself, sure, like it might happen. But if you have somebody else that's watching you do it, holding you accountable, the chances of it happening are much higher, at least in my experience.
No, I agree. I think the big thing there too is like telling other people, but with a purpose. Like Luke is telling you that he's going to use less screen time with the purpose of you're going to help him. He's not just telling you that to tell you that.
Exactly.
I think I went through that with the tattoo before I got it a lot, where I told everyone for like a year and a half, I was telling everyone, dude, I'm getting a tattoo. I'm thinking about this. Look at
I
this.
remember. Yeah,
I was probably telling you in the dorms, wasn't I?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm going to get this tattoo. And then finally, when I stopped telling people, I actually got it.
And it looks good.
Oh, thank you. So it's a balance.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you think about in terms of reaching your goals. One of the things I've been thinking about a lot is like using short-term negatives to reach long-term positives.
Okay.
And what I mean by that is like doing the right thing for the wrong reason. So for example, let's say you want to get in shape, right? You want to lose weight. The healthy reason to lose weight is so that you look good, you live longer, and maybe you feel like you look a little better, right?
Yeah.
The unhealthy reason to lose weight is, oh, this guy who I know who I don't really like is in better shape than me, and I want to be better than him.
Yeah.
Or the unhealthy reason is I want to look really good, so I have 6-pack abs and all the girls love me.
Yeah.
Right? Or like all these other reasons. And I feel like the short-term ones are way more desirable.
Certainly.
So much more, right? And I think for me, at least when I'm thinking back on like why I got into the gym, of like I feel like I actually kind of used the short-term stuff that got me in the gym and got the habit, and then I jumped off the boat before I got like too unhealthy.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember one of the longest patch that like really got me in the gym was going with you and Spencer.
I remember that.
And I think part of the reason I was really going all the time was it was half accountability, like you were saying, of like, okay, these guys are going, they're asking me if I want to go all the time. So I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
I think part of it too was like, I was like, fuck, Spencer lifts more than me. That cannot stay.
Yeah.
Right. And so like, but that's not like a healthy thing to have, right? I shouldn't be comparing myself to him all the time because that's, there's a bajillion guys in the gym who lift more than me and will forever lift more than me. But then once they got the habit, I was like, oh, I don't really care anymore. I'm going to go because I know it's good for me and whatever mental health stuff, right?
Yeah. I think off of that, there's like the key word in being like competitively in a healthy way is like healthy for sure. Like with Spencer, you guys both got into the gym around the same time. We were all lifting buddies, like we're comparing, but it's not really like there's a difference between comparing or not comparing. There's a difference between competing and comparing for sure. You were competing with Spencer. I remember like going, we would go and bench and, you each would try each other's max.
I would count how many he's doing and then do one more.
Exactly. And it pushes you, to perform better for sure. But comparing, I think, is really the dangerous one. Like if you're comparing yourself to them, you can have competition without comparison. You look at him, you see what he's doing, you're like, I want to do better than that. It's different than saying, I can't do that.
Yeah. I guess the thought process is like, do you think I can chase goals for the wrong reason to start and then switch to the right reason at the right time? For example, like I'll give you another weird one, right? Let's say podcast, right? Let's say I started this podcast only because I wanted to make as much money as possible.
Yeah.
That's not a good reason to have a podcast, but that could be, but that's actually, for some people, it's more likely to get them going, right? If I were to tell you, Jack, do you want to start a podcast? You can make $10,000 a month. I don't make $10,000 a month, by the way. You make $10,000 a month, right? You'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm in. And you do it.
Yeah.
And then eventually you kind of start to like fall in love with it, hopefully. And then you're like, oh, I'm not actually even doing this for the money anymore. I'm doing this for this, right? But I feel like if I told you, hey, do you want to start a podcast because for the love of it? You'd be like, no, I'm good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I've just been toying with that in my head recently of like, can I use the wrong reason to actually get me going?
I think it's a little bit of gambling.
It definitely is.
Like I have a key example that comes to mind. My cousin is really involved in the startup world. And she's explained to me that there's a very obvious difference when a startup is made because of passion and a startup is made for profit. Only you think, oh, I'm going to make a bunch of money off of this. And the ones that really take off, at least according to her, are ones that are started with, mixed motivations. Wow, I think this is really interesting. And it has a lot of, profitability potentially. And they continue to fall in love with it as they develop it. So I think it's really situational. And I think you're totally right that it does sometimes work. But I think it's really dangerous. Like, just really quickly, like if you go to the gym and the first thing you do while you're there is like comparing and comparing, it's hard to get out of that trap for sure. But it's definitely possible.
Gets you there quicker, but can also destroy you if you don't jump off quick enough.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that's true. Because if you go to the gym, you compare all the time, you could be the best shape ever, but then you'll get body dysmorphia.
Yeah. Perfect example. Yeah.
How often do you think we should be reflecting and changing our goals? That's another thing that I've been thinking about recently is I'm a very goal-oriented person. Aiden Macheski opened me up to that, realizing that a little more. And I realized sometimes I feel like I look at my goals too much, which is, I think, the opposite of some people. I think it's important to have a lot of goals, but like sometimes I'm like, this is my goal. And then I sit down and I reflect too much. And then I'm like, oh, no, this is my goal. No, this is my goal. This is my goal. And sometimes I feel like I don't give them enough time to like mature. What do you think about that? Do you change your goals a lot?
So, yes, definitely. I think my goals are maybe not altered on the daily, but certainly weekly. I think, prime example is coming into the presidency of the fraternity. I found, just like anyone really coming into a role like that, like you're extremely optimistic about how things could go. And sometimes your goals are unrealistic depending on your situation. And as time continues and as time changes, you have to continue to alter them to be the most efficient at achieving them. I think it depends on how general they are also. Like if my long-term goal is to make $1 million, like there's so many ways to go about that goal can kind of like sit there. But in my personal experience, general goals like that are not nearly as persuasive to me as, goals that are like, I'm going to have 4, brotherhood events at the fraternity this quarter, where it's like, this is a short span, like I'm going to do this. And then as time goes on, maybe, okay, schedules changed a little bit. We have some events. Like if I keep that 4, sure, I may be striving harder, but I might crash and burn harder later on because I'll be disappointed in the output, But if I'm given the opportunity to like change it, I think I work more efficiently.
Yeah,
that's a very convoluted way of saying.
No, I'm with you. I think that what I've kind of come to is the longer the goal, like however far, like if there's a 3-month goal, 5-year goal, 10-year goal, like the longer the goal is, the more often I should be looking at it. Right. That's what I've come to of like, if I'm taking a 1-hour plane ride and we adjust by 1 degree, that's going to lead to we're going to be less off track than if I take a 10-hour plane ride and I go 1 degree off. Right.
Yeah.
Because there's kind of, keeps going. It's kind of exponential in that sense.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with all that of like, okay, if I have a 1-month goal, even if the goal's terrible and it's completely wrong, it's fine as long as my 10-year goal is right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think of the quote, like people, usually overestimate what they can do in a day and underestimate what they can do in a year.
Almost.
Underestimate what they can
do. People
do.
usually overestimate what they can achieve in a year and underestimate what they can achieve in a decade.
Okay. Like off of that, as time progresses, you have to change your goals to fit, the time frame. As you go on, maybe within that decade, you realize, wow, holy crap, or wow, dang it.
Yeah.
I've been moving, so much quicker than I expected in the last 5 years. I should change my goals. Keeping them low might hold you back, but on the daily, keeping them too high can also hold you back. I think being fluid and adaptable is a trait that benefits everything in your life, but particularly when it comes to achieving goals.
Yeah, I think a big piece of advice I would offer other peers too is go after your goals really fast, which might be stupid advice. But I found like if I have a thought and I have a goal, and if I go after it really fast, like the faster I achieve it, the faster I realize if it was the right goal or not.
Yeah.
Right. So like one of the goals, I've talked this before, like I want to go viral on TikTok and I went viral and it's like, I don't love it. Right. But if I was chasing that for a year, that would have sucked. I would have spent a year of my life doing that opposed to chasing it for like 2 months. Yeah. Right. Or like if my goal is one of my goals was like, okay, public speaking, I'll get paid to be a professional speaker. And I was like, I did it for 3 months. I was like, maybe not. Right. I actually enjoy the podcasting more. Right. And then like my whole thing is just taking things off the box of like, okay, what do I like? What do I not?
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm definitely a believer in chase, because if it is the right thing, you get it sooner. And if it's not the right thing, you figure it out sooner. Both ways, time well saved for sure.
How do
Definitely a
you
believer.
how do you process when a goal starts to go awry?
Ooh.
Because that's a big one too, right? You could say like I have these goals and I'm like, oh, I'm gonna get paid X amount of money to like come speak to this company, and then no one wants to pay me, and you're like, shit,
Yeah.
is this the right goal? Can I do this? Should I stick with it? Should I pivot? Like you can really get in your head.
Yeah. I think one of those things that comes with adapting your goal is recognizing when it's going awry. And I think the way you do that is, when you're a degree or two off, right? Like going awry doesn't need to be some sort of apocalyptic thing. Like my goal is ruined. I'm never achieving it. But, maybe that $1 million in a year, like adjust, things aren't necessarily going exactly how you want it. Maybe it's 600,000, maybe it's 800,000, like changing your goals to fit that. And I think, like a good way to tell when a goal is going awry is when you find yourself clawing to get back on track, right? So like if something didn't go your way or is repeatedly not gone your way, and instead of, pivoting and switching to the next lane, you find yourself all over the freeway trying to find anything. I think that's a really clear sign that maybe something isn't going exactly how it should be going.
Should my first thought be like, okay, take a step back and analyze, or should my first thought be put your head down and keep going, or should my next thought be leave it, like quit?
I think it's highly situational. I think that for me, like I'm definitely not a quitter. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing. Like there's always a time when you should weigh whether it's more valuable to quit or not. And like commonly there is a time when it may be more valuable to quit. But I certainly get trapped in I'm going through to the end with this thing, like with the frat presidency.
He's the fraternity president.
But it took me, 2 shots. Took me 2 shots to get that, like I failed the first time and I was definitely demoralized, but I kept going. I think that the most valuable thing you can do is analyze ultimately. There will always be times where putting your head down might benefit you, and there will always be times where quitting might benefit you, but stopping or slowing down and analyzing will tell you which of those options is better, and I think that's the safest approach to making sure that you achieve whatever you're trying to achieve.
A lot of us are consistently chasing a big dream, a big goal that we're like, we need this. Once I get this, I'll be happy, I'll be good, right? Some people that's a job, some people that's a girlfriend, some people that's president of a fraternity.
Yeah.
You were chasing that for like a year and a half, 2 years.
Definitely.
And then you got it. Was it worth it?
I think when you have an ambition, even if you really do love it when you get it, you are always looking at it through a rose-tinted lens before you get to it. Even if somebody loves their job, I doubt anyone's ever gone to a job that is exactly how they envisioned it. There's always something different, and that can be good, that can be bad. But yeah, I'm sure I told you, this is gonna be super pompous. I told you freshman year, definitely told you last year. Like my lifelong goal, ultimately, my big lifelong goal, which I failed to mention at the start, is to, serve in the executive branch for the United States, preferably as the president, but time will tell for sure. But off of that, that's a big job, right? Obviously. And any job that you want, even if other people don't see it as like a huge thing, is big for you. And I think because of that, you will always see it in the best light. Like if you want something, you'll see it in the best light. That's how you continue wanting it. Sometimes it works out, sometimes it doesn't, for sure.
So would you tell anybody I think we all have that goal, that dream, that thing we think will fix everything, or like we just want that and then we'll be good.
Yeah.
Would you say to those people, hey, just like put a bit of grain of salt in that of like, hey, it's going to be good, but like that's not going to solve your problems. That's not going to be as great as you think.
Definitely, certainly. I think like, I mean, everyone has their own set of values and their own sets of things that makes them feel like who they are. And I think you just need to be realistic about the fact that things, things are never as they first appear, I think. And I'm a big believer in that. And also the fact that, even the greatest plans will never make it past first contact, right? So like things will change. You just need to be ready for it.
Yeah. Everyone has a plan until Mike Tyson punches you in the face.
Exactly. Yeah. Hopefully that never happens. But
hopefully not. I gotta last like 30 more years and then I'll be fine. Then that won't be a
Be
possibility anymore. Then we'll be good. Yeah. I mean, I think one of the things too that one of the annoying conclusions I've come to is the answer is always a bit of everything. Like you always ask somebody, should I pick option A or B? It's like the answer is always like a bit of both.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big thing with goals of like, oh, once I get X, I'm good. It's like, no, once you get X and a bit of Y and a bit of Z, you'll be good.
Yeah, exactly.
And having a little more balance and wider perspective is really important.
Yeah. Also, like people get drive in different ways, and I think we're similar in the fact that our ambition is something that drives us. It's kind of paradoxical, right? But ambition drives ambition. And I think that when you get to the point where you've achieved things that, right now you're saying you want, I'm sure you will find other things that you will want to, go forth and do from then, right? Like, at least for me, I find that ambition will continue and continue and continue. Like, there's always going to be something else that you want to do. It's just a matter of making sure that you're not tunnel visioning on something. Like, there's so much in your life, like there's always going to be the next thing that you need to do, want to do, have ambition to do, or inspired to do.
Right. The thing that you're doing isn't end all be all.
Exactly. There's always so much more. Like, I mean, not to sound corny, but like take a walk, right? Like go outside and see how pretty it is and hear the birds, or, talk to your friends, whatever. And I think you'll be exposed to like, like, sure, I have this career goal, but that doesn't solve my life problems. I can get there and not have any friends at all. And I'll probably be just as like down about it if I never got it. Right. So I think it is also given balance, not to go off topic, but yeah.
That's one of the blessings of people who are really ambitious is they can do and do and do and they don't burn out. Right. And like they understand like there is no finish line, which is great. And sometimes it consumes them forget to live life a little bit. But that's definitely a superpower for people that are, ambitious and just wanting things all the time. Like, I just want to do this. I just want to do that.
Yeah.
And helps you get a lot done.
Yeah, for sure. There's pros and cons. Definitely.
One of the things another thing, everything is just things I'm thinking about. But is, getting more people into the self-help, which is an ambiguous term, but, personal growth areas, which is something we were talking about. And one of my hypotheses is self-help and self-growth is too unrelatable and too kind of scary for a lot of people. And what I mean by that is like, if I hand you, everyone knows what Atomic Habits is and 48 Laws of Power.
Yeah.
But when I hand you a 400-page book, you go, I'm not reading that. That's too much. It's unrelatable.
Yeah.
I think another part of it too is people go, oh, the people who are into self-help are 40-year-olds that have six-pack abs that make $1 million a year, their life is perfect, right? Or it's these industry experts.
Yeah.
And, this isn't for 20-year-olds. This isn't for a 30-year-old. Even sometimes this isn't for a 50-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's one of my goals. And that's one of the goals of the podcast and everything that I'm doing is like kind of making it less scary and more relatable. Because if you and I can do it and we're 21 years old.
Anyone can do it.
Anyone can fucking do it.
Yeah.
If frat guys can do it and read all these books and grow all this much from this kind of content, and even this is self-help, right? Having these conversations is a version of self-help and personal growth. I think anybody can do it. We were talking a little more about being more intentional about this kind of things. What are you doing to try and be more intentional about this topic, which isn't a normal thing for people our age to be conscious about?
Yeah. So a little bit of context that the listeners may find interesting off of you is obviously you've written your own self-help book, which I've heard has done wonders for a number of people around me. So that's good to hear. But you really exposed me to the world of self-help books freshman year. I've always been a big reader. Pretty much all nonfiction books that other people may not find very interesting.
Right.
But I always found for me, I always saw you reading self-help books and I thought, oh, this is just what this guy reads, like, whatever. That it wasn't my thing. I think that that's really ignorant. I was closed-minded about it, ultimately. I read a book called How I Turned My Life Around, and it was super impactful. And that's kind of what finally, after my sister had bothered me to read it, which may be telling in and of itself. I read it and I found that like I actually took the lessons to heart. My fear was I was going to read this book and then I was going to put it down, and that was that. I remember saying things to you because you wrote in your books, which I felt was it's like
highlight and write and all that. Yeah.
Heresy, violating your book. But I've now realized the value in that outside of just school and assigned readings. And so I think that if you just read self-help books, it will take you nowhere. I think that's a big thing. But if you read them consciously and you're reading them and you're either taking notes or thinking about how, wow, okay, here's what I do in my life. This is how this applies to this, whatever, being conscious about your reading, I think that then it can have like an absolutely insane impact on, not even just your efficiency, but like your quality of life and how you see things.
Would you say to people who are in the same boat of you as like, I just don't identify as that, right? Like, I'm not a self-help guy. That's not my thing. This is kind of stupid, a little cheesy, not my thing. Would you say to them, hey, just read one? Like, just try one? What would you say to them?
I would say, grab a pen and pick up the book. That's what I would say.
Pick up one book.
Yeah. Just pick up one self-help book. And, like, you might be uninterested at first, and then you'll read it, and maybe you'll connect it to your life, different things in your life, different motivations in your life. And as soon as that click hits, where you're like, wow, okay, I can learn something from this, and you're consciously reading it, it will benefit you. And that is something that took me a long time. And like my sister had to sit me down and give me a book, and I grabbed a pen because I thought, okay, Nick Batchelor does this, I should probably do this. And it really worked for me, for sure.
It's amazing. Yeah, you grab a pen, look the look, walk the walk.
Exactly. Fake it till you make it.
Yeah, my grandma gave me a book on like manifesting one time. I go, I'm not reading this. She goes, you will read it. And I go, okay, I'll read it. I'm in.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. It was a great book. And now I ask her for books all the time to read.
Perfect.
But yeah, I really do think it is like, if you offer me a cigarette right now, I'm going to say no because I'm not a smoker. Right?
Yeah, be open-minded. Smoke cigarettes.
Be open-minded. The biggest takeaways from this podcast are smoke cigarettes while you read self-help books.
Yeah. Hey, you could look all Parisian.
There you go. What percentage of personal growth do you think should come intentionally through self-help books, through podcasts like these? And what percentage do you think should happen naturally, just through your life experiences?
I think that the way I see it, which maybe the world does not agree with me on, is I think that self-help books and podcasts are almost like supplemental, right? You read 48 Laws of Power. Maybe you will learn those things on your own through your life. But currently, as a 21-year-old college student, I'm not getting the experiences to learn this. So I'm supplementing that by reading a book that applies to that, So I think percentage-wise, if I was to put a number on it, I think 33.3% would be like self-help books and podcasts, and the rest is experience, because of course, like anything these books are teaching you, these podcasts are teaching you, if you have the experience, you might be able to learn. The difference is these books are written by people who have experienced things that you have yet to experience or may never experience, depending on, your life and whatnot. And because of that, it makes it particularly valuable because you're learning things that you might not have the opportunity to learn by yourself.
Yeah. I think part of it too is they're like the fuel. They're the motivation. Like when I read something, I go, oh, I want to go try that.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, yeah.
And then I go try it, and then I learn even more when I'm out in the world trying it.
Yeah.
So I like the 1/3 approach you have there. Like, oh, I'm at home. I'm reading this tip on confidence. All right, let's go see if it works. And then I go in the world and I try it.
Exactly.
All right. Or I'm on this podcast and I was talking with, who was it? I was talking with Drew Manley. We were talking about I was talking about how I still get nervous when I give presentations, which is what I think is stupid because I've spoken to over 500 people right in the last 6 months. And then we talked about and came to kind of a conclusion oh, we just need to not think about it at all. Don't think about yourself. Don't think about the presentation at all. Practice it. And then leading up to the presentation, forget it's there and try it.
Yeah.
Right. And I would never do that on my own if I'm just a normal person. I'd get up there, no offense to all the other people who are at OIC, but I saw a few of them and it's like, you're reading your script, you're biting your nails, you're really nervous, you don't do great. Right. And I tried something new because of this kind of stuff and I crushed it. Yeah. I was definitely a little nervous, but I didn't think about it at all. I just showed up and the presentation I gave was way better than any of the practice runs I had.
Yeah.
And that happened because of this kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like an extension of that is maybe this is a reach, but
reach.
Halo reach. And maybe an extension of that is not of Halo reach is have you ever thought about how you're walking while you're walking?
It's I've done the breathing thing or the blinking thing.
Okay. Well, for me, I find sometimes when I'm walking around, I think, ooh, am I walking weird? Am I waddling a little bit? Mm-hmm. And then because of that, I definitely start walking weird and waddling, right? I'm thinking about, wow, okay, I need to put my foot down like this, and it's right. Who is this cyborg walking by me, in front of Panda Express? And so it's I think, I mean, this is obviously off topic, but off of the confidence thing, you at least for me, I do better not thinking about it, just do it. Just go apply these things you've learned and see how it works. Don't think about, what other people may, be interpreting what you're doing, yo, yeah, that guy's walking funny. Well, I just figured out a new awesome way to walk and I'm figuring it out. That was a really weird connection. But my point is just that I think the 33%, that's the part where you put it in your mind, like you're saying. But I think if you don't go out and attempt to apply the things you're learning, you're not going to get a whole lot out of it. The whole point of you learning these things through these self-help books is so that you can apply it to your life. So you need the learning experience alongside the book to make it work.
The point of knowledge is action.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Why have it if you don't use it?
What's something you've outgrown recently?
Something about growing recently?
Any topic, anything. Because that's the big thing is if you're doing self-help and you're growing all the time, one of the biggest parts is there's growing pains in the sense of oh, you leave things behind. And sometimes it's easy and sometimes it's hard.
I think something that took me a long time to let go of, that I've just recently let go of, is ego lifting at the gym. Even when I was lifting with you guys, it was I need to put up some numbers, I need to look good, whatever. Because of that, I really hurt my shoulder over the past year because I was pushing myself way more than I should be and getting no muscle growth out of it. And, just a number of weeks ago, I kind of realized if I want to take this, if I want to take what I'm doing seriously and actually see the effects of it, I need to do it seriously. I need to not ego lift. I need to push my body how it should be pushed for myself, not so that I just feel good, because other people see me doing it. So that was something that took me a serious second to grow out of.
Love that.
Thank you.
I want to transition us a little bit.
Okay.
We're talking about relationships.
Oh,
which respect to you, because I've had a couple guests that I want to talk to relationships about them, and they said no, which is fair.
Yeah,
it's a very sensitive topic.
Especially if you're in one, for sure.
Yeah, I also think it's harder on a college campus because you know everyone, you see everyone, right? Like if you're out in the real world and you're dating someone, you break up, it's like, oh, you're never gonna probably not gonna, unless you're working together. It's like, oh, that's that. But when you're on college campus, or you see everyone all the time, everywhere.
It's particularly prevalent in Greek life. Like it's a really small world.
Especially if you're in Greek life and you date someone else in Greek life, there's a lot of connections, a lot of ties.
Always.
So anyway, I've had people not want to talk about it, but I want to talk about it.
Okay.
One of the things that I think is super interesting about it, which we kind of hinted at earlier in terms of the rose-tinted glasses, is misconceptions people not in a relationship have about being in one.
Okay.
And I say that in the sense of like, I think there's always that lovey-dovey stage of like, oh, I have this big crush on somebody. They're the coolest person ever. They're perfect. Once I get into a relationship, it'll be great.
Yeah.
And I think I've had that before, especially like in high school too, where I was like, dude, once I get in a relationship, my life will be perfect.
Exactly.
And relationships are great. I've loved my past relationships, but you get into them and it's not like, 100, it's not perfect.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think?
It's another human being. There's always
another human being.
Yeah.
And there's way more elements to it than like this fairy tale narrative that a lot of people, I think, especially young men, like have.
Yeah.
What would you say to those young men that are like not in a relationship and fantasizing about one, in terms of like what it's actually like and what the real pros are and what the real, energy drainers or things to be serious about are?
What has led some of my relationships to be more successful than others is my belief that the idea around this person completes me is a great way to end up really sad. I think that when two people who feel themselves, they feel complete, they don't feel like there's a missing part, come together and are able to do things together and have fun, like you can conquer the world with that person. But I think when you come in needing something and going through a relationship because you need something, it completely changes the dynamic of the relationship, kind of in a negative way.
You need two wholes, not two halves.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's a great point. What role do boundaries play in relationships, particularly around communication and feedback?
Yeah. So I've always been a very genuine person, which is not always the best thing in a relationship, though it's normally a good thing. My girlfriend, Annabella Meagard, who you know,
Shout out AB.
Yeah. I can be very blunt with, for sure. We're both kind of hard-headed people, and so sometimes it takes bluntness. And it's a lot easier to say that now that we've been dating, closing in on 2 years, in comparison to like, have you been dating someone for a month and then you don't know like what you should and shouldn't say, right? I think when it comes to setting boundaries around communication, honesty is the best policy. The reality is you're in a relationship for your own happiness. At some point, your happiness becomes intertwined with their happiness, right? But you start dating somebody because you're happy around them and it makes you feel good to be around them and you enjoy being around them. And I think, when you're thinking about maybe why you're in a relationship, you really need to weigh the value in, is it worth just pushing something off? Like maybe they do something you don't like. Is it worth just not saying something? My feeling is it's rarely the case.
That it's worth leaving it?
Or
that's worth saying something?
I think it's rarely the case that it's worth leaving.
That you should address it.
I think addressing it is very powerful when you're early in a relationship, late in a relationship, in the middle of a relationship, whatever. Because ultimately, if you address something that really bothers you in a relationship and they also become very insulted and it doesn't work, whatever. But if you're understanding and you talk about it and you're able to convey something and they're also able to convey their feelings about it and you come to a consensus, not only did you just solve something that was bothering you and may have weighed on you outside of when you were just with them, but also you have a deeper understanding of this person and a deeper bond with them, which leads to a better relationship.
So would you say that complete and open honesty is the right thing as long as it's said at the right time in the right way?
Yeah.
I've had times where it's like I'm super honest. I think I was a little too honest, And I've had times where maybe like I called things out or I said things that maybe I shouldn't have said, like that were maybe fine to say, but I didn't say them in the right way, or I used like you instead of I, right? Or things like that. I think I agree, but yeah, I think how you say it is really, how and when you say it is really, really
super important. Yeah, I think honesty is the best policy, but that doesn't mean that you should just always say everything you're thinking. You know, like it is another person, and ultimately you need to convey what you're thinking in a way that resonates with them the most if you want it to be a productive conversation. I also think, you know, it's different when it's like honesty is the best policy with problems, you know, in a relationship. But, you know, if my girlfriend comes up to me and she says, "What do you think of this dress?" If I really don't like it, I probably am not, it's not a smart thing to say, "Wow, that's a really ugly dress." Because, like, kind of what you're saying, it's kind of how you put it.
Yeah.
When you ask someone how you look, for example, like that can be a really sensitive topic. And being totally honest, maybe is not always the best thing in that case. You know, like you should still be honest, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't phrase it in a way that's demeaning or mean or something like that, right? But with problems in a relationship, I'm a firm believer that you have to be honest, you have to address them. You know, like arguments and disagreements happen in every relationship. If they don't, you know, like, are you sure it's a person, right? But like, you just need to know how to address them when they come up.
So the key is, if I were to summarize everything we just said, the key would be open and honest communication is really, really important, particularly around problems, right?
Certainly.
You can be a little give and take here if it doesn't matter that much.
Yeah.
But that only works if you have two holes, right? If you have two people that are, good on their own. I don't know how to say that, but right.
Yeah.
Complete, not reliant on each other. Because if you're relying on, if I'm AB and you're Jack, right? And I'm relying on you for my confidence, right? And then you say something that you don't like my dress, then my confidence is gone. Then you can never give me honest feedback on my dress, because then that would never work. I'd lose all my confidence. I get really upset at you.
That's a prime example. Yeah.
All right, cool. Do you think compatibility or timing matters more to start a relationship? To start a relationship.
Oh,
I think that's a fun one.
Well, I think timing definitely plays a role in compatibility.
What do you think? What do you think plays a bigger role? I think it's more about, when the time is right, or is it more about like, oh, this person is just right for me and where it's going to happen anyway?
I think it's
a bit of both. It's a bit of both.
Always,
but let's
like
talk about it. Like always. It's a bit of both, but let's talk about it.
I think it's timing, like weirdly. Ideally I'm always going to be dating somebody that I'm compatible with, though that's not always, going to be true. Or it hasn't always been true. But I think when you're getting into a relationship and the timing isn't right, you can be the most compatible pair of people this world has ever seen, and it might not work, But if the timing is right, then everything else can build off of that. But if you're not emotionally, physically ready for a relationship, I have less faith that it will work, even if you are incredibly compatible. What's your take?
No, I agree. I think a lot of it is timing. I think there's a lot of people in the world that I think you're more compatible with more people than you think.
Yeah.
I think you'd be in like relationships with more people than you think you could, right? I think a lot of it is timing and circumstances of, okay, I might be the perfect person for 200 people here at Oregon, right? But I might maybe only meet 5 of them or 20 of them, right? Or maybe I meet 20 of them, but 10 of those 20, they're already in a relationship, right? And so on and so on.
I think it's, for me at least, I think it's fair to say that if you get to know someone enough, you will like 98, 97% of all the people that you engage with. Like once you get to, it's hard to not like somebody when you really get to know them as a person. At least I find.
One of the things about Jack that he will not admit to, but I'm going to say here, is he has great charisma and he attracts a lot of individuals. And I think just naturally, you're one of the people, you're one of like the top 5 people I've ever known that like girls just like are attracted to you. I'm being so serious. And you don't try, you don't like really approach people like with that player ego energy, right? You're just like, you're silly, you're fun. 6'3".
Closing on 6'4".
Closing out 6'3", 6'4", blue eyes, finance. And I don't know, what do you think that is? Like, why do you think you just like, you know?
Yes. Well, I thank you for the flattery. I don't know if that's necessarily the case. I will tell you that a lot of guys that I've talked to in the fraternity are confused on why girls keep talking to me after I talk to them about history the first time I meet them. So obviously there has to be something there because everyone is confused.
You're talking about history and they're still, or history is the thing you're saying.
Yeah, like, oh, Genghis Khan, cool. Like, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love you so
much.
much.
Really cool, actually. Can
I take a guess?
You can take it. I'm happy to. Yeah.
Okay, but you can't get mad at me.
I won't get mad at you.
Okay. Part of like my amazement freshman year, I'm gonna be honest. Part of my amazement, part of my bewilderment freshman year was you always looked a little disheveled.
Oh, definitely.
You always like you look nice now. Haircut, shave the beard. I saw you Monday.
Beard was
I saw you Monday. Your hair was straight onto your eyebrows. You had the biggest beard I've ever seen.
Yeah,
you looked disheveled.
Big, yeah.
Right. And like I saw those kind of outfits freshman year, but it was still happening. Right. And I think your energy, I think it's because you give off, I don't care. I think you give off, I don't care about anyone else. Like you, and that comes off as
narcissist.
No, that comes off as really confident.
Yeah. Okay. I can see that.
Like you're talking about history to girls. You're wearing a ridiculous outfit. You're kind of stumbling around, but it's like, oh, this guy does not care about my opinion of me. He's not trying to pick me up. He's not trying to impress me.
Yeah.
He's just really authentic. And I think your authenticity really is the key factor there.
Oh, your guess is very convincing. I would say, I'm sure you've heard this before, like you're much more likely to maybe get a date out of a conversation or something if you go in looking for nothing, right? Like, don't have expectations and maybe something will happen. You never know. But yeah, I would say like I definitely am indifferent sometimes for sure. I definitely have a disheveled look. Since kindergarten, I've always done the wait, 3.5 months and then cut my hair once I can't see type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Shave once my beard grows out and my girlfriend tells me to shave.
Right.
That's not since kindergarten, that part. But yeah, I think that's a really spot on guess. I do think authenticity is a huge part of it. I think hand in hand with that is confidence. I think like to be really authentic, you have to carry yourself a certain way. You have to have confidence in your own individual, right? Like I have confidence that people will like me, at least surface level wise. So I'm able to just be authentic, right? And I'm really, really lucky for that. But it's also something that you do like develop intentionally, if you really, really want it.
Yeah. I mean, everything you do, right? It leads to the conclusion of, oh, this guy's confident.
Yeah.
And you're saying your confidence comes from, I know this person's going to like me at least on the surface. Is that what you're saying? I'm just thinking for like,
okay. Yeah.
The reasoning that I'm poking on this, right, is I'm thinking, okay, I'm a guy. I'm anywhere from, 15 to 35 years old. Every guy wants attention from women.
Always, yeah.
Right? Unless you like guys, no problem with that. Right? Everyone wants attention, right? Like that's what you want.
Yeah, for sure.
From a romantic partner. And I think that's a lot of things people aren't good at.
Yeah.
Right? I think a lot of young men, especially in today's day and age, are not good at that. And I think I feel bad at times too that I think that the narrative is, oh, I have to be 6'4", blue eyes, finance. And that's how you get women. Right? That's how you get a romantic partner. But I think the reason I poke at you and like kind of bring up, oh, like the look, you don't always dress the best, or sometimes you look a little disheveled, is like, no, that's not what it is.
Yeah, I think I just saw this on Instagram Reels today.
Sure.
And it was, well, the first part was a girl saying that incels don't exist. You know, you can't fish on land. You know, you can't go fish for fish on land. You got to go into the water, right? You have to put yourself out there. But I totally forgot where I was connecting that. But I think what it is like you have to have faith in yourself to sell yourself, or at least you have to. Yeah, I mean, even if maybe you haven't, maybe you don't have faith like in who you are in the moment, but you have faith that you'll be someone or do something that gives you confidence. I found that senior year was a huge learning experience for me. Senior of high school, I definitely lost a ton of weight. I was much more fit. And I think that helped me realize, like, okay, like if I put in the effort, I can get what I want out of myself, right? Like if I read the right self-help books, or go and run how much I should run or whatever, like you can make yourself who you want to be. And I think having that grounding and that realization gave me a lot of confidence in myself, in the sense where it's like, I can go do whatever, I don't have to placate people. I don't have to be unauthentic. I can just be myself. And as long as I'm working toward my goals, I can achieve them. And I think that gave me a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
Which I think ultimately is what people are attracted to. Oh, I just remembered. What it was is she was saying, it's not about how you look, right? Like if there's any girls listening to this, the thought of like, why is she dating him? Even guys, like,
oh my
why
gosh,
is she dating him?
Pete Davidson and Ariana Grande.
Perfect example. Like people that, a lot of people are like, why is she dating him? No way. Well, like that's a perfect example of looks, honestly, can be completely overshadowed by confidence in a good way. You can not, I mean, obviously it's to an extent, but you could like not take care of your facial hair and your hair. Like you can just
It's like
not
you smell good.
Yeah, it's makes you smell good. But confidence is what attracts people. It attracts business relationships, romantic relationships, friend relationships. Like people are attracted to people who, like, even if they don't know who they are, they know what they want.
Benny Blanco and Selena Gomez.
Perfect. That's like a pristine example of that for sure. Like if you've seen his Instagrams, you can tell he has a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
And it's like, because you have confidence, and because, if you know who you are, you're able to sell yourself better, and you're able to just be who you want to be when you have confidence.
I think another really cool thing to remember for anyone out there that's not confident is today I was walking to my pitch. I'm in this suit. I'm looking nice. I was wearing
Definitely.
aviators, right?
Oh,
looking
classic.
as kind of douchebaggy and confident as I could look.
Yeah.
Right? Like suit, sunglasses, look like I make a lot of money, look like I'm uber confident, look like this, that. And like I'm walking around and I'm still a little nervous of like, oh, like, do I look a little douchey? Am I wearing the right thing? This, that, right? And like even when you're walking around and you see these people that are attractive or wearing the cool outfit, like they're just as nervous as you are 90% of the time. And it's not about, like you said, it's not, what brings my confidence isn't the outfit helps. But innately it's like knowing like, hey, I'm not for you, I'm for me. Right? Like I do what I do because it makes me happy. I am who I am because that's who I am. I'm not trying to appeal to you. I'm not trying to appeal to them.
Also, like something I touched on earlier that I think connects here is everyone's human, right? Like off what you're saying, like everyone, when they go up on the stage and are talking in front of a bunch of people, is going to have some level of nervousness.
Yeah.
Right. And you just kind of need to have that understanding when, you're in a social environment. Like all these people, maybe they're not thinking the same thing, but they're probably thinking something along the same lines. If not that, like the thought process is similar. Um, and I think that is super grounding and can give you a lot of confidence when you fully realize, like, oh, I really like when somebody tells me that I look happy. If you go and tell somebody they look happy, they'll be like, thank you. You know, like everyone's human and there's a lot of commonalities. Obviously, there's a lot of differences between everyone, but it's a lot of commonalities too. And I think that's like, use that to your advantage for sure.
Yeah. A lot of it too is perception. I mean, we could talk about confidence for forever. There's a million ways to be more confident. There's a million
Always.
things about it too. I would say for people as well, going back to finding a romantic partner, even if you're not confident, all you got to do is display it. Because even if you are if you're confident, you don't display it, I'm gonna assume you're not confident.
Yeah.
And if you display it but you're not, I'm gonna assume you are.
Yeah.
Right. So like for
Fake till you make
example,
it.
yeah, like you could ask the people that were around me today. He was even telling me, I was like with some Nico Seacat. He was used to be in beta. Yeah.
Nico, yeah.
He went before me and he walks out and we were all sitting there and I was just kind of like relaxed, my arms on the chair, taking up a lot of space, not really paying attention to anything. And Nico's like, dude, this guy's always ready. This guy's always locked. And the guys before me, they saw my practice pitch too. And they're like, dude, you're ready to go. You're so good. Right. Like you look so confident. And like in my mind, I'm nervous. Right. But I'm sitting there and I'm like making it seem like I'm really confident. And that's not a bad strategy for when you're out and about and, you know, you're working on your confidence. You're still getting there. You're still putting in the work, but you can still like in social settings, do things to appear more confident than you actually are.
Totally. I think like take freshman year me
Mm-hmm.
and compare it to me now. I was definitely a little bit more confident freshman year. And now that I'm really starting to learn, like, who am I? You know, questioning things about me and my personality, my life, what I want to do, where I want to go, how do I want to do it. You know, like, of course, your confidence goes down a little bit when you're trying to figure out who you are. I think that's natural. And I think a lot of college students could probably relate to that. But no one will assume that of you unless you present that, you know? And if you present confident, like you're saying, the assumption is that you're confident. And, you know, like I said, it's hard not to like someone, at least for me, once I get to know them enough. So if I'm talking to someone and I think they're confident, so I walk up to them and I'm talking to them, great, conversation's going well. Oh, okay, like maybe I like misassumed, but wow, okay, I really like this conversation. You know, like it's all about like, I think when it comes to like confidence and stuff as well, and also just like building relationships and having people be attracted to you romantically and non-romantically, it's like same with a job. Like you just need that interview.
Yeah,
right?
first impressions.
You need that first impression, and then you need to, you know, build off of that. So
yeah, and too, like when you do that stuff, like you can kind of act in a way that people create this image of you in their own heads of like how great you are.
yeah,
Right.
exactly.
It's like if you only interact with me for 2 minutes, but during that 2-minute interaction, my body language is amazing. Right. Like I'm wearing I'm like really making eye contact with you. I'm not speaking too much.
Yeah.
I'm not like really high pitched voice and like nervous and all this other stuff. Right.
Yeah.
Like there's so many cues you can give of like, oh, like this person's really confident. Why is this person so confident? Oh my gosh, this person must do a lot of cool things. Oh my gosh, this person must like, this person must, you know, get so much attention from so many people. This person's important. And like you can they'll spiral on their own of like, oh my gosh, this person is so interesting because I would perceive them in this way.
A really weird example
Sure.
that I just thought of. I don't know if you've seen the clip of the I'm not sure if he's still the president, but the president of Bulgaria walking through
I've definitely seen this clip of the president of Bulgaria. Yeah. Is this your opening line with girls?
Yeah. Have you heard about this guy?
Yeah.
No. So he's walking through this town and there's this woman there who doesn't know who he is. And obviously there's like reporters and stuff, whatever. And at first she's not questioning who he is. She's just also walking. She's not from Bulgaria. She's just walking down, whatever. And then she's kind of starting to realize, and she's talking to him and he's obviously extremely confident, right? And she's like, what have you done? Like, you must be important, blah, blah. And he's like, well, I'm the president of Bulgaria. But I think it demonstrates that there's more variables in it, that, you know, like assumption is a very powerful tool that you can manipulate in social situations, right? Like you can actively do things that will change the assumption that somebody makes of you when they first meet you. And, you know, fake it till you make it. Like I've said like a bajillion times at this point, you know, like I think that if you want to be a certain way, try to be that, and eventually you'll get to it.
Yeah. I mean, and use this information how you want, right? Like, obviously, try not to manipulate people too much to steal their money.
Sorry, that's not what I meant. But
No, but I agree. And I think it's really important to address both sides of it of like, hey, no, like, this is a really powerful tool. And you can use it to manipulate people. You can use it to get what you want. You can use it for good. People will use it against you.
definitely.
That's a big part too. I met so many people who I was just, my first assumptions were so wrong because they were doing that kind of stuff to me. And I'm like, oh, I was just wrong. But it's important. Like, it's good to know. And it's a really powerful tool to have.
Yeah, and I do think that there is a difference between you can like fake it till you make it while still being authentic.
Yeah.
Right. You know, and I think that is, from my understanding, what people find it attractive about me is like, even if I'm faking it, like I'm extremely authentic about who I am, my passions, like history. You know, someone doesn't get the idea that I'm lying about who I am, which is a total negative in most social situations. I don't think people meet me and think, oh, he's putting on a front, you know? And I think that that's something that you need to keep in mind as well.
Yeah. And sometimes you have to use those perceptions to display who you really are. Meaning, like, you know, if you have resting bitch face, everyone's going to assume you suck and you're mean and annoying.
Yeah.
But you could be the bubbliest, nicest person ever.
Exactly.
And you have to be aware of those assumptions to smile more and give better, more warm cues. So then people know who you really are.
Exactly. Yeah. And like that is not being inauthentic. That's almost in some ways like
More authentic.
improving your authenticity, right? Yeah. That's a really, really good point. I totally agree with that.
All right. We're going to wrap up the episode talking about something that you love.
Okay.
History.
Oh,
okay. Social media, I think, is so interesting when it comes to history, and not necessarily the internet when it comes to history.
Yeah.
Because it's going to be easier than ever for future generations to look at the past, right? They could watch this podcast, right? 200 years from now.
Let's hope.
All right. It's going to be clearer on what actually happened. It's probably going to be harder for big governments and organizations to like hide,
Suppress
information. How do you think that's going to impact history and like what unfolds next?
Yeah.
Which is a loaded question.
Well, it's a huge question. I'm sure if you were to look back, if you've had Instagram for long enough, some of your posts, maybe in middle school, think, oh, okay, that was like an interesting post that I made, right? Mm-hmm. Like that was maybe not the best photo of me, or like that caption was really weird.
Yeah.
And I think something really valuable but also dangerous about history, the future of history. People are much more authentic online than they've ever been through communication in the past, right? It's a lot less conscious to type out a comment on something and press submit or whatever, not submit, whatever, you know, press enter, post, and then close out your phone than it is to write out a letter to somebody and deliver it to them, right? There's a lot more effort involved in that. And because of that, I think in the past, obviously it's never always the case, but I believe in the past, communication was much more conscious. I think now, like I have communication probably today over maybe Snapchat with friends in the fraternity that I may not really remember, you know? And I think that's a huge difference. And maybe people in the future will get a better idea of the culture we live in now because they're able to see it significantly more authentically than potentially in the past.
Right. That's an interesting point too about because information is so easy to send and communication is so easy, it actually, there's kind of more nonsense. And it actually might be difficult for people in the future to go, oh, they kind of have to, it's going to be hard to come through it and go, what's real, what's not.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, certainly.
What is a joke and a meme and what were people actually feeling?
Yeah, exactly. Also, I think, you know, let's say your little brother hit your car. Okay. All right. That conversation that you may have with him in that moment will be probably very emotional and very impulsive, right? And it is in some ways a reflection of how you're truly feeling before you're able to kind of calm yourself down and think and be more rational, right? And I think that the internet allows or facilitates expression like that a lot more, right? Like when it comes to recorded communication. So if you're writing a letter, like, again, it takes more effort. It's not as impulsive. By the time you're done writing it and taking it to the post office or slipping it in the mailbox, you might have time to think, oh, okay, maybe that wasn't the right thing to say.
Right.
But when you're texting, and I've certainly done this, particularly with guys like in the fraternity or with people in UO College Democrats that I'm like frustrated with, maybe I send something and then I, maybe a minute later go, I probably should have phrased that better. Right. So I think in the future, people looking back will go, it's incredibly authentic. Like some of the communication we have now.
Raw.
It's like
or better and worse.
Yeah. Like sometimes it's like ridiculously raw.
Right. There's no time to think.
Yeah.
And there's also that expectation too of like, hey, you saw my message, you need to reply.
Oh my gosh. Well,
especially now at Snapchat, premium members can see when I'm sideswiping. Damn it.
Big Snapchat trying to spy on us. No, I'm like famously bad at not responding to people, as you have experienced in the length of our friendship.
I just call you.
Yeah, I'm definitely better over the phone. But yeah, like I have definitely struggled in the past with like with responding to people. But back to like way long ago during the conversation, I have been able to be better at that because I've taken conscious steps to grow there. I can't really unconsciously start just responding to text more. But if I go, okay, like I need to respond to text when I get them, like then I'll do it more. And that's better. So
how cool is it that your family, your lineage, hundreds of years from now, hopefully humans are still around, can watch this podcast and go and see what you were like. Or your grandkid can go, oh my gosh, like I get to watch grandpa like when he was younger. Like how cool is that?
It's really cool. And it's completely unprecedented in history.
It's insane.
It's insane.
I can't even fathom it too, where it's like, I'm trying to imagine like what it would be like to see videos of my grandpa doing something like this.
I genuinely cannot even imagine. It is really, of course we're lucky and unlucky as everyone at any time to live at any time in human history. But there are things that are around us that have never been experienced by humans ever before. And like, it's truly incredible to see like we're talking into a piece of metal
that doesn't like, who understands how any of this works?
And it like records or like, it's just incredible. And
yeah,
there's a lot of comfort that comes with that. And I think it'll be really cool or maybe it'll be like,
we're to be on I mean, like there are some negative things, right? Like what my grandpa had to say 80 years ago probably would not be PG.
Yeah, exactly.
I think about that sometimes too, of like, are we going to get canceled in 100 years where it's like, oh my gosh, they ate, they said friends. Like they're
you mean pals, buddy.
Right, exactly. Or I made a joke the other day. My brother and my dad gave me so much shit for it. I go like, do you think we're going to get called speciesist in the future? Because humans are like, because we think humans are the best. I was just like thinking about it.
Yeah, I mean, you never know. Hey, maybe we'll be in like the Galactic Federation by then, and maybe it will be wrong.
Like any future lineage, love you. This is weird that I'm talking to you right now, and I promise that I'm not speciesist.
It's like those recordings that
it's like Interstellar.
No, it's like when you like write the thing in like 6th grade that they'll like
to your future
mail
self.
to you in like 8th grade.
Yeah.
Yeah, except it's a bit more personal.
Anything to say to your future family?
I hope that you remember me fondly.
Okay. All right. Low bar there.
Yeah.
You're like, I hope you don't hate me.
Yeah, exactly. And if you do,
don't tell me.
I'm a good person.
Yeah. If you take anything away from this, Jack is very authentic. Future family of Jack.
If you don't like me, it's because I'm authentic.
And I'm calling it, oh, hold on. We're putting this on the record too. Jack becomes president of the United States.
Oof.
I get a tour.
I'll subsidize your podcast.
Yes. Put tariffs on every other podcast
Yeah.
but mine.
Sorry, it's like $100 to post unless you're Nick Batchelder.
Unless you're building the blueprint.
Yeah.
Jack, thank you for coming on. We have
Thank
a
you.
closing tradition on this podcast in which the last guest leaves a question for the next guest, not knowing whom they're leaving a question for.
Yeah.
And the question that has been left for you is if you get stranded on a deserted island and you only get to bring 3 personal items, what would you bring?
3 personal items. All right. Can I give you 2 quick answers? Very quick.
Yeah, give me the 2 ones and then you can fill in
Okay,
your
first
third
one.
spot.
First one. Starlink. Generator. Camera. And the generator comes fueled.
Why
by
a
the way.
camera? Just to like to podcast?
Well, yeah, I'm gonna be like,
To vlog?
I'm deserted on this island.
Just clickbait people?
Yeah, and people are gonna watch it and I'll make a bunch of money. Wow, they come and rescue me, which would be sick. The real answer, so that I can survive and I don't die on camera,
Right.
is a tarp. Wait, is the question like survive? Like, will I
Look,
survive?
I mean,
without these?
you can take it however you
All
want.
right, I'll take.
Let's do let's do 2 ways, okay?
All right.
Survival, Starlink, generator, tarp. Got it. Noted. Let's pretend you're stranded on this island. You can't get off of it.
Mm-hmm.
You have food and water and shelter.
Okay. Yeah.
And you get to bring 3 personal items, just for entertainment or for personal
whatever, yeah.
reasons. What would you bring?
I bring my favorite book,
Which is?
War and Peace by Tolstoy. Great book. Read it 3 times. Highly recommend. Really, really good book. Truly. A Zippo lighter. Pretty useful.
All right, let's pretend you have a lighter.
Okay.
I know you want to survive really bad. Your favorite book,
Okay. I would bring my favorite book.
a tarp,
Yeah.
right?
I bring my favorite book. I would bring my retainer.
Oh my God.
No, and it's not a survival thing. That's a comfort thing. All right.
Okay.
That's a comfort
I
thing.
want to have straight teeth.
Well, no, it's like if I'm there, I don't know how long I'll be there. Maybe my teeth will start feeling weird. I don't want that.
Okay, retainer.
Retainer.
Okay.
My book, a retainer.
Yeah.
And a pen and journal.
That's a good answer. With your retainer in, of course. Well,
Yeah.
you're right.
And if the pen just
Yeah,
takes
have
up
a-
one slot,
have a
I'll
lift.
replace the retainer with
have
the
a
pen
lift
if I
while
have
you
to.
write your journal.
I don't want to talk. I don't want my teeth to move.
Teeth them.
All right.
Nice.
That's a good question. Who asked that?
Who knows?
Okay.
Jack, thank you for coming on. This has been a great episode. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. It was a lot of fun. And you're a good interviewer for sure.
You're too kind. See you, Jack. Thank you, everyone, for listening.
Bye.